Hello and welcome to another weekly update. Hope you're doing well. Hope it's been a good week. I hope last week was good for you. Been pretty busy. Lots of things been happening. Lots of things to talk about. Yeah, it's been a pretty busy week and lots going on next week. Also, I think it's going to be pretty busy also. So let's get straight into it. First thing to tell you about. I did a thing. I made a new tool for graph notifications. So what is this? This is Microsoft Graph Notifications, the subscription that you make to Microsoft Graph if you want to subscribe to new events for things that are coming in. And there's the way you do that is with a post request to Microsoft Graph. There's a dedicated subscription endpoint. And in order to do that, you need to know some bits of information. You need to know the resource, you need to know the expiry time and all the rest of it. And it's a bit complicated, and it's made more complicated, if I'm honest, because the documentation is kind of all over the place. You go to one place to find out about resources, you go to another place to find out about expiry times, you go to another place to find out about quotas, you go to another place to find out how to actually put the subscription request together. I don't know, for me, I was just like, this is a bit complicated and I think I could make it better. And the way I thought I'd make it better was to build a little tool to help me create those subscription requests, and I thought you might like to use it too. So I did a whole blog post about it, but really, let's just go down and let me just open it up and so you can see it. So this is the tool here, and basically it starts by you choosing the type of thing that you want. And actually, this is useful in itself because this doesn't live anywhere else. Kind of broken up by product type. So you can go down and see. By default, I'm only including the GA ones, not the beta ones. You can also include the beta ones, and if you do that, then they have a little test tube by them. And then you have some required information you need to put in. As soon as you've put the required information in, it will start building out on the right-hand side the post request that you need to make to your subscription. You can copy it to the clipboard right here. Everything else is optional. You got some other information because it's a beta endpoint, and your quota information is down here. Anyway, I think it's kind of useful. I hope you agree. If you do, feel free to use it. It's completely free to use. It's at graphnotifications.dev. Give me your feedback. It would be, if you see stuff that doesn't work or you don't like or you feel like could be better, let's fix it. So yeah, that's the first thing. That graph notification builder is give it to your devs. If you're making subscriptions yourself, hopefully, I think you'll agree it's probably a slightly nicer way of making subscriptions than whatever it is you're using today. Okay, next thing to tell you about. Microsoft is going to start automatically installing Microsoft Teams apps for users. Say what? I feel like I should have a soundboard or something for like, say what? But I don't. Never mind. I haven't actually ever played with this, and so doing it on a live stream is probably not a very good idea. But I do have all sorts of fun noises I could use that I'm not going to press now on this mixer. Anyway, let's not do that. Perhaps my homework is to go and find some kind of like big announcement, fanfare or like something like that we could use. Anyway, what is this about? Okay, so in some very specific circumstances where IT admins have already said it's okay, so that's the kind of big disclaimer, this is IT admin driven. In those circumstances, Microsoft, yes, will start automatically installing apps for users. So there's a roadmap item for this. It's already started rolling out. It's got a rollout start date of September. They've started doing that instead of putting in GA dates or like done by dates. They've started putting in like rollout start dates. I think it's honestly, it's more accurate because it seems to take a long time to roll stuff out across Microsoft 365. It's a big estate. There's lots of tenants, and they roll stuff out in waves and with checks and balances and stuff to make sure they don't bring down everyone's tenant. So it does take a while. But anyway, so a couple of things to go through. First of all, the admin needs to opt into it. There's this big button here. This is off by default. Okay, so if you don't do anything, this is not going to impact you. So just to be aware, like you need to physically go and turn this on. Once you've done that, then you need to go and choose the apps where this applies and where this is true. And there's a bunch of apps already out there today that are set up to do this. I think more are going to be added. But the magic, if you like, comes here, right? So for those apps that you've turned on, if Microsoft sees that your users are signing in to those platforms, so like Adobe Acrobat or DocuSign or Figma, if it sees users signing into those platforms using their Azure AD, their Entra IDs, then on the back end, Microsoft uses those signals to say, aha, this user on this account must be using Figma or Lucidchart or Adobe Acrobat, whatever it is. Therefore, I'm going to install the Teams app for them because that seems like a good idea. Now, that's interesting, right? That's really interesting. Microsoft deciding it's going to use login information and login signals to drive other behavior in other parts of the system. Now, is it a good thing or a bad thing? I think that's up to you. I think it can help users. For sure, like it's a natural idea. I think Microsoft often think that I believe anyway that Microsoft think that Teams apps often have a discoverability problem, right? That they would be so useful to users if only users knew they were there. And they've been doing a lot of work to try and surface those apps to users. And this is one more way of doing that, by automatically installing apps for users where it feels like the right thing to do based on their login activity in other places. Is it a bit creepy? Is it a bit like a Big Brotherish and overreach? Again, it depends on your point of view. Some people will think so. What I really like about the way this has been implemented is that it's IT driven, and so admins will have the control there to decide what to do. And it has to be, right? Because actually the IT admins in some ways, or in fact very literally, are taking on that responsibility of agreeing to all of the things that users would normally agree to when they installed apps. So actually, because this is happening on the user's behalf, legitimately a user can't be responsible for agreeing to those terms and conditions if they didn't actually choose to install the app. So the IT admin is taking that on for them. And then in the blog post and also in the documentation I linked to, there's a whole bunch of other apps where they would be available, but they need a bit more setup before they could be automatically installed. So things like Box and Freshdesk are listed in the screenshots, and there may be other things. And it might be that Microsoft is going to use other signals as well, not just login information. Login information feels like the most dependable of all those things, and kind of does make the most sense. And I can kind of see where Microsoft are coming from there. It's like if there's a user that is over here using Asana, using their AD, then why wouldn't they want the Asana app in Teams now? I don't know if they would want the Asana app in Teams, but like that's the thinking that Microsoft have. So this stuff is rolling out right now. You may or may not see it in your tenant. The thing to go and look for is in org-wide settings, in Teams apps, in the Teams Admin Center, under Manage Apps, you've got this auto-install approved apps. If you want to partake in this, go and turn that on. If you don't, leave it off. Okay, you may, if you're an IT admin in the team space, you may have heard the news that live events is being deprecated and is going to be replaced with something else, a new town hall feature. So what does this mean for the APIs? Because live events has a bunch of live event APIs. I'll tell you what it means. It means they're going to be deprecated. So the deprecation of the APIs means that it is kind of on the same date. So it's September the 30th, 2024. Now, what does that mean for applications written using those APIs? Will there be APIs for the new Town Hall feature? Microsoft say yes, and they expect to release them in spring 2024. So what does that mean? It means if you're using apps today, if you have apps today that use the Teams Live Events API, really there's not an awful lot you can do about it right now, but your API is going away in a year's time, and it's going to be replaced by something that isn't written yet, but hopefully will be released in spring 2024. That's kind of vague, and so if you're one of these people, I get this is probably going to be a bit concerning possibly, but Microsoft have committed here to say they will be backed by new Microsoft Graph APIs. They expect to release them in spring 2024. Honestly, I think they'll be ready because I don't think Microsoft will want to fully deprecate live events without all of the APIs being in place. Now, will there be 100% coverage of the old to the new? That's been an area where, honestly, there has been mixed success, I will say. Every time APIs do get replaced by other APIs, it's not always 100% cut over. So there may be some things that aren't there. There may be some things that are different. There's almost certainly going to be work to do. I would hope that that if there are APIs, that they do release them in spring 2024 early, so that they can go through a beta cycle, so everybody can get ready with them and understand them. Because otherwise, you're trying to implement things over the summer. If you are turning this off at the end of September, it doesn't leave an awful lot of time, basically. So, I hope these come out. And it might be that, they're planning on releasing the new Town Hall Graph APIs, maybe Ignite in a beta format, and then GA them in the spring. That would be great because it gives people loads of time then to prepare throughout the rest of the year and into the new year. That would be ideal. So maybe that's the plan. But I think we're just going to have to wait and see on what happens with that. Okay, next thing. This is a long one, isn't it? Next thing, I told you there was a lot to talk about. Microsoft Graph, callRecords API. So this is the subscription that you can make to Microsoft Graph to be notified about call records, and those call records get sent when a meeting or a call finishes. So any kind of call finishes and wraps up. And they've been GA for a while now. I'm just going and check. I want to say it was 2020. If I've got my notes, June 2020 was when it GA'd, the Microsoft Graph Call Records API. It's just GA'd for GCC High and DoD. So little over 3 years later, but it's now generally available in both GCC High and DoD. So that's great news for those customers. It means they can now use the API to do things like custom reporting, do analytics of their meetings and their calls based on near real-time information. So so information being sent as the call wraps up. So the best you're going to get really to real time. So that's good news. Very short blog post on the Microsoft on the devlogs blog, just to go through how that works. The get direct routing calls and get PSTN calls isn't quite there. It's coming really soon, so late October 2023. But the actual change notification subscription stuff is there, and you can start using it as of the 20th of September. So that's good news. Okay, the Azure Communication Services team have been busy, and they've definitely been busy, and that's the subject of some of my kind of talks and stuff, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But what I want to talk about right now is a blog post that that Bob Sir has put out. So Bob Sir is the VP of Azure Communication Services, I want to say. I hope that's kind of close to his official title. Apologies if it's not. But in his latest blog post, he is talking about using Azure AI and Azure Communication Services together. This caught my attention because it's what I've been doing as well and what I've been doing demos and talks on. So I thought it was interesting. In his use case, he's using chat, but he could also be using email and SMS to have a conversation with a customer that is presumably backed by, am I going to be able to get a full size version? No, it's exactly the same size. A conversation with a user that is presumably backed by Azure OpenAI. Yep. So this is kind of an interesting idea. Like, there's no really deep technical detail in the blog post, but he does link out to a sample and a video that he talked through doing this with the Microsoft Mechanics guys. So that's interesting. And then he goes through like the architecture of how you do this and how you build this thing out. So if you're looking to do this blog post is a good place to start. That GitHub code sample is a good place to start. The Microsoft Mechanics video is a good place to go. And maybe if you can make it to one of my talks, then that might be a good place to go as well. I talk about something similar. I'm actually also doing it on voice because I'm a firm believer in voice for answering some of these things, not just chat. And there's some cool stuff that Azure Communication Services is doing around voice. But either is fine, and like choice is good. And so this is a good place to go. All right, last thing quickly, because we're going super long, is last week I was at CollabDays at the National Museum of Computing at Bletchley Park. That was an awful lot of fun. Really, really was. And a really good day in an amazing location. So much so, I did a video about it. So you can find the video on YouTube. Here it is. Go and check it out. Go and watch it. It's a good one. I like it. I've just published it yesterday or whatever. So go and check it out. I go through the speakers I went to see and all the stuff I saw there. It's also on LinkedIn. You can find it on LinkedIn if that's easier. This is a better version on YouTube because it's 4K and the LinkedIn one's only 1080p. But if you don't care about that, it's also on LinkedIn. So go and check it out there. It's a good video. It's about 10 minutes long. And to be honest, it's mostly B-roll of me walking around the museum, looking at amazing things in the museum. But the actual day itself was really good as well. The CollabDays day, the Microsoft 365 Community Day. I learned a lot. Some really good speakers from Microsoft, MVPs, partners, all that sort of stuff. So really, really good. All right. I think that's it for me. That was a lot to get through, but it's been a busy time. I think it's going to be a busy time now until Christmas. So we'll see. That's everything from me for this week. I hope you have a good week, whatever it is you're doing, and I will see you again next time.